Hello, I'm Dr. TJ.
I'm Pastor Julie. Welcome.
Welcome. Quick question for you. Have you ever wondered in your relationship, whether it's with your significant other, somebody you're dating, who you're engaged to, what happened? Like, what changed? And today that's what we're going to talk about, like what happened in the relationship. So sometimes you're in a relationship, things start off rosy, perfect, everything's going well, and then you wake up one day and
what happened?
Everything's changed. And so we want to talk about that today, go into detail. But first,
I am Pastor Julie, and I just want to share a little bit about myself. And that is, over the last 20 years, I've been working with thousands of people in the area of relationships, communication, boundaries. And so I have a passion to help people have real relationships, real, fulfilling, loving relationships.
all right, I'm Dr. TJ. I got my master's and doctorate, and I am passionate and trained in counseling, relationships, and I am just really dedicated to making sure that people not only experience a nominal relationship, but have healthy and happy relationships, to make sure that they have more joy, live an abundant life, and to take advantage of what's available to them.
Yes.
And so let's hop right in. But first, before we hop in, if you have not done so yet, please do.
Like us on Facebook,
Like
right?
us on Facebook, thumbs up. And also on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button, because we have so many cool videos that we have great value, great information, and we want you to take advantage of it. And we also have several free products that we'll give you today that you can click in the box below, along with some other trainings. If you so choose, you can select those as well. But they're all in the box. You can click below, get your free product today. And we encourage you to do so. But we're going to hop right in. This is part 3 of our relationship problems videos.
Yes.
So part 1 was
Everybody lies.
Everybody Lies.
Everybody lies.
If you haven't seen that one, go back. That's a really great video. Part 2
is Stinkin' Thinkin'.
Make sure you watch that one. The links will be below. And so part 3 today, we're talking about what happened, what changed. So let's dive right in. You want to start off with that?
Well, sometimes we're going along in a relationship and everything, and then we wake up one day. It seems we wake up one day and everything is different, and it's kind of like you go, "What happened?" And so at that point, what do you do? What do you do? Have you ever done that?
What have you done?
What have you done?
Yeah, or since you clicked the video, what are you doing now? That's actually a really good question.
Yeah. Most people go into panic mode.
Yes.
I would say, I think the initial response to that typically is like panic, like, oh my gosh, I got to fix it, I have to figure it out, I have to, all of that. And we all know that when we're going into something with a reaction, it's probably not the best choice at the moment.
Yes.
So the number one answer to what happened is, I'm not going to tell you yet.
Punishing you.
But some of the things, you can describe some things, right? So you get started off in a relationship and you're all happy and giddy and everything's good, and
Then you get to a point to where there's like some misfires, where you may have asked yourself or told yourself, like, hey, I saw that situation going different. Like, usually this person did this for me, or I enjoyed this with this person.
Oh, I just thought of a good one, actually. I did. He used to take me to the airport and drop me off and pick me up. Now he tells me to take Uber.
Uber it.
Yeah. What happened?
Yeah, he
right?
used to open doors for me all the time. All of a sudden, I just hitting the remote.
Yeah. Or she used to cook dinner every night. Now she doesn't. What happened?
What happened? What changed?
What changed? Yeah. And if you're thinking what happened, then the key to all of that is, I'm not going to tell you yet.
Gotta stay tuned to the end.
Yeah. So you're going along, and so what are some of the mechanics behind that? Because you even admitted yourself that you have experienced some of the changes in a relationship. So.
Oh wow, that was off camera.
Sorry about that.
No, joking. One of the things that I think about is that, when I was first married, I used to do all these things for my wife, and I would do them, constantly, regularly, no matter if I was tired or, had a lot of energy. And then, later on, as we've been married for, years, time has progressed, And I'm like, do I want to do that right now, or I'm tired? And so I don't have like the same like motivation, like something has changed. And so that's something that I have to address. I have to be able to realize like, hey, this is a different like attitude. And usually it's easy for us to find the attitude change in someone else.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing to find.
But not in ourselves.
In ourselves, yeah, it's a little more challenging. And so, one thing I recognize, like, hey, so why am I feeling this way? Why is the value system now, going down versus like, oh, whatever I can do to bring value to my wife, let me do that.
Right.
And so, I realize like one thing is that I'm tired, I'm getting old, and but really, those are excuses. Really, I just feel that like I don't have to do those things to get what I want.
Boy, that's a powerful statement right there.
Wow.
So we could unpack that for like 2 hours. But what he just said is, I don't really have to do that to get what I want. And so I want you to be thinking about if you're sitting in your relationship and you're like, what happened? I really want you to examine yourself and think, do you have a value system set up in your relationship, a scorekeeping mechanism in your relationship that says when I do this, I'll get this, and I don't really want this, so I'm not going to do this. And you've lost sight of the value that you're actually bringing to your spouse, that it isn't about you, it's about them. And so that's something really important to think about. In 1 Corinthians 13, where in the Bible it talks about love. Okay, love does not keep a record of wrongs. What that means is love does not keep score. So if you're scorekeeping in your relationship with serving one another like that, you're not loving. It really is not loving. And so it's something to really examine at that point. But if you're in this and you're thinking those things, like what happened, and you can identify the changes, then the answer to that is communication. Yes. There you go, I gave it to you. The answer is communication. You have to learn how to communicate about it. And many people don't know how to communicate. And so they come at this with things like, well, you used to do it and now you don't. Or and then stinkin' thinking. If you haven't watched the stinkin' thinking video, you need to watch it. But stinkin' thinking creeps in, and at that point you're like, they don't love me anymore. They don't like me. They used to do it, now they don't. My relationship is falling apart. And once you start thinking those things, what you think about grows and becomes big, and it becomes the issue.
Yes. And easy, just to give you a word picture, think of your thoughts as seeds. And the time you spend on those thoughts, like watering them, and so you choose what grows in your garden.
Yeah.
And so if you have negative thoughts, negative thinking, they will mature into maybe situations or thoughts or lines of thinking, ways of thinking that say like, hey, this relationship will not work.
And they mature into behavior.
Yeah.
So the behavior of, I'm too tired to do that, and it doesn't really matter, that.
It's not that important.
Yeah, and actually the amount of time that you think about not doing it and not wanting to do it, you could have already done it, right? So let's say that you go home and maybe your husband or whatever asks you for a foot rub, okay? And you're thinking, oh, are you kidding me? I've been working all day. I don't feel like doing it. His feet stink, whatever. And in all that time that you just spent thinking those things, you could have just ministered to your husband and done it.
Yeah, saved yourself the guilt trip.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so many times I think it does come down to those kind of selfish positions that we get in, and truly love is many times orchestrated to be more selfless than selfish. And if two parties work together to be selfless, what you have is it's almost like you're trying to outserve one another. I always tell people, go try to outserve one another.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody will be happy if you do that. Really.
True.
Because it doesn't take nearly as much time and energy as we think in our brain to actually accomplish the task that's been asked.
That's good. That's good.
So it's important to know that. And it's also important to know, back to communication, communication is foundational. We've got a complete communication training that is worth, by the way, well over about $3,500, to be honest with you. I mean, I do communication trainings that are, that people pay a lot of money for. We wanted to bring this to you because we know it's so important. It is that important for many people to know these things. So when we're talking about communication in these areas, a lot of times we're more willing to tell somebody what we don't like or don't want rather than what we need.
Yes.
You know, and what really needs to be explained to somebody or communicated is what we need, right? The Bible has a concept in it that I think many people miss, and it's a remove and replace concept, right? So you sweep the demons out, they go out into the field, they find buddies, they come back to the house empty and inhabit it 10 times worse, right? Well, if that house were full, they'd have nowhere to go. So if you sweep it out, you need to fill it up. And so I always follow that concept in that if you're going to get an old behavior out, you need to replace it with a good behavior. So remove and replace. Well, the only way you can do that is to identify what you want to remove and how you want to replace it. And
Wow,
that
that's
requires communication. So if you're sitting there going, what happened? Then most likely either something is happening that you don't want to happen anymore, or something isn't happening that you want to happen, okay? And so you have to be able to say what you want and need in order to get that.
And so you have to assess it, and then you have to address it.
Assess it and address it.
But you have to do it the proper way, and that's one of the real important, tools that you'll learn in our communication training.
Yeah.
Is not only to understand like what's going on, what the issue is, but a positive way to kind of work it out to where you're not being on the defense.
Exactly.
All the time, and where you don't put your spouse or significant other on the defensive end as well.
Right.
To where they can
Our
receive from
natural
you.
position, I think, is defense, really. I mean, I observe that a lot with people. We do have a natural mechanism that causes us to want to protect ourselves and to defend ourselves. And that isn't a bad mechanism in certain situations. But with your loved ones, with your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, it's not a good posture to have. Because you send a message that says you're attacking me. Do you realize that? If I'm defending myself, I must be feeling attacked.
Wow.
Correct? And so now you have an attack-defend cycle going, and that just never turns out well.
Yeah.
Because then you end up with lots of codependent issues in it, like victimhood, abuse, no communication, just a whole big bowl of wrong
Yes,
there, a whole
yes.
big bowl of yuck.
Yeah. And so if you're at a point where you think that he or she doesn't love me anymore, then that's where you know that you need help. And
Yeah.
that's one of the great things about Real Relationship Goals is that you don't have to go to sit in a counselor's office or on a couch or try to meet an unconvenient schedule to make sure that you get the time and go to 4 to 6 visits to meet with a counselor. We have training that's available online through our online platform to where you can get the information, the training that you need. Because many times in many cases that we found is that just having the training and being able to use it as a resource, as a tool, and you can do the same thing at home and for a more competitive price, I would say.
Much more competitive,
Yes.
right?
And you'd probably have more success in doing that first, because sometimes it takes a lot more to be able to involve someone else, like an external third party
Yeah.
that you don't know,
Right.
to help you find a solution, and especially to get both of you on the same page to agree to do that.
Well, truthfully, after working with so many people in a clinical setting
Yeah.
in my office, that's what's driven me to want to do this, to get this to you via video, because there's so much information that you can watch and rewatch and absorb and then start to practice. And it is sometimes easier for you if you're in if you're in a lot of pain, if you're in emotional pain or whatever. It's hard to walk in and meet somebody you don't know and just start telling them everything.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. And one of the great things about video, like you said, you can refer back to it.
Yeah.
Like if you got this great tool while you were sitting there with the counselor and you forgot what that tool was, or that
Yeah.
resource, and you don't have a way to reference it, it makes it really difficult, And so by having it on video where you can go and access and review it, just like with our temperament training, like I've got my first temperament test, I think a little over 7 years ago, and I've looked at it as recently as last month.
Yeah.
And so
valuable. I've had mine for over 12 years, and I look at it usually, I don't know, maybe even a couple times a month sometimes. just because I'm teaching it so much and referring back to it so much, but it's also such a part of my life of wanting to, the thing about temperament, just quickly, is that temperament identifies strengths and weaknesses within your core. And if you don't understand what some of those are, it's difficult to take a weakness and make it a strength. But I think the even more valuable part is knowing your strength and strengthening it.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's how we really can set goals, achieve them, and move, go from here to here. And so, not just focusing on, yes, I have some weaknesses, but looking at your strengths and really building on them and encouraging yourself with them.
Yeah. So I want to challenge you today, not only to watch this video, you can subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, but I really want to challenge you to go into the description box, click to get the free videos, of course, but also, invest in temperament training. That's the foundational approach that we kind of springboard off of to serve you as far as, helping with, relationship problems, relationship advice, but also, understanding who you are, what your needs are, your weaknesses and strengths, and being able to do that with the person that you're with so that you guys can work together to come to great solutions and have a healthy and happy relationship.
Absolutely, and you won't be thinking what happened.
Yeah.
You'll be excited about what you can do.
Yes, and what you have now. So
Yes.
challenge you. Hopefully you'll meet that challenge. But until then, this is part 3, the last video of relationship problems, which is what happened. And so now what are you going to do?
Yeah.
See you soon. God bless.
God bless.